Hey, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today, June 18th, with your weekly horoscope. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about some of the transits that are coming up this week, and then I'm going to do an angel reading. I'm going to pull one tarot card and do an angel reading for each sign. This is based on whole sign Western astrology, so I'm looking at you from your rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, you might want to go to one of the free birth calculators on the internet and get that information. You just need your time of birth and location of birth to determine that. It is the last few days of spring. Good morning, small wildflowers. And personally, in my part of town, I felt like spring just never showed up. It's been gloomy and it's been gray and it's been damp. And honestly, that's exactly how I feel. Gray, gloomy, and damp. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Katerina. And, while that's all very, I'm being a little cheeky here, I believe that there are some transits right now that are also contributing to our, I don't know if anyone else is feeling just a little bit like, I don't know, sluggish is a word I might use. Sluggish, feeling a little bit like I'm dragging a foot. Good morning, Margie. This week, we have Neptune, which is stationing at 27 degrees, making a square to the sun as the sun moves from the late degrees of Gemini and into Cancer. It will enter Cancer, ushering in the summer solstice on the 21st. And mind you, these are Pacific time. So if you're not in the Pacific time zone, please adjust for your locations. The square between the sun and Neptune is interesting to me because Neptune is also making an aspect to Mercury this week. And it grows into a square with Mercury. And I believe that what this is sort of having a more discerning eye, trusting my gut versus what I want to hear. Neptune very much could be bringing in a fog, bringing in a feeling of maybe you're not getting the whole truth or something feels a little bit off. And rather than trying to push on it, I feel like this is an opportunity for you to connect with your team from the other side and offer them an opportunity to give you signs and omens showing you the truth from your heart here. We have Jupiter making a sextile to Saturn. Jupiter is at 7 degrees of Taurus, and Saturn has gone retrograde. It went yesterday. It went retrograde with the new moon in Gemini, and Saturn is going to be stationed at 7 degrees the whole month. First, it was going forward, and then, of course, standing still in the sky as it begins its retrograde motion. So I think that this is a favorable aspect of me being able to look above a situation, above a what it maybe is being fed to me, because Mercury is having some conversations with Neptune, as well as some other things going on with Mars and Venus in Leo. So let me sort of backtrack here. This week, I think that the stars are asking us to not necessarily believe everything hook, line, and sinker. I believe that the stars are asking us to start to implement an awareness of our intuitive body that may be speaking to a marketing, to a branding, to a story that is wanting us to believe something, and yet it seems counterintuitive. I'm going to be a little specific here. In where I live, there's a commercial for a medication that is for diabetes. And the woman starts off singing this big story and talks about how the little pill has a big story to tell. And as I watch this commercial, I think to myself, this is for type 2 type 2 diabetes, which I believe is also, dietary adjustments can help with that. And the whole time I'm watching this commercial, I'm feeling like I'm being fed a bag of bones, like I'm being fed something that is not necessarily the whole story. So the reason I say that is because Neptune rules the fluids of the body. We have, again, Neptune is in Pisces at the late degrees, Saturn is in the early degrees. And I believe that on some level over the next couple of years, we are being asked to intuit our bodies in a way that's more empowered. And I believe that some of the aspects going on right now are asking us to take a second listen to what we're absorbing through what we're reading, what we're listening to when we're driving in our cars, the type of podcasts we're listening to. Are we looking at everything as if it is the gospel truth, or are we having a discerning eye? Mercury is going to make a sextile both to Venus and Mars. Venus and Mars are currently in Leo, and while they're not in a tight conjunction, they're sort of traveling together in a loose conjunction. And so when Mercury makes the sextile to Venus, the sextile to Mars, I believe that this is asking us to step into our heart chakra. I'm not going to look at like Leo being, having fun and romance right now. I feel like the whole story in the sky this week is, again, about discernment, about, sort of weighing the viability of your own body to know intuitively how to heal and what are the things that we are doing to contribute to that. I believe that Mercury is making a sextile to Chiron, and this is going to be exact on the 22nd. Mars will be making a trine to Chiron, while Mercury is making a sextile to Chiron. Mars will be at 19 degrees on the 22nd, which will be an exact trine to Chiron. Chiron is the healer. Chiron used herbs and the things of the earth to support the body and to balance the body, aka heal the body. So as this week progresses, I think we're going to see a widening gap between what we are being encouraged to believe about our body and what it needs in the way of support, and then sort of this intuitive ancestral knowing inside, a deep inner knowing. Neptune and Jupiter both rule Pisces. It's an ancestral house. It's a house that really is a little bit polarizing because this knowing where we truly come from, our souls are eternal, that our souls are loving energy, can be counterintuitive to sometimes the harshness that we experience inside the human dynamic. So I just want to bring that up because I think that this is really a time where, and we also have Pluto making a sextile to Neptune this week. Pluto's in Capricorn, 29 degrees, and that's the Leo degree, the degree of my heart, the degree of my courage, and the degree of leadership. And I feel like at this moment in time, we are being given an opportunity to support our bodies in ways that recognize that what we put in the body is similar to what we put in our car. If we put cheap gas in our car, we get something that may sputter and clunk. If we put good gas in the car will run cleaner. That's the way I want to put it. We also have, towards the end of this week, Mars and Venus making a square to Uranus, as Uranus is finally getting into the later degrees of Taurus. And while they're making a square, again, Uranus represents liberation. It represents rebellion. It represents the World Wide Web. So I really think that overall, the weekly theme here is information coming to us. What will we believe about that information? Will we, just take it in as if it is, the truth, or will we find our truth within the collective? Because I think, again, we are reconstructing some of the mental and communicate. I want to put it under the communications umbrella, but not necessarily always the communication that's coming out from the outside, but the communication that's coming from the inside out. Oh, yes. Happy Father's Day, everybody. I forgot about Father's Day. My dad is on the other side. I remembered Father's Day, and I want to wish everybody who's a Gemini a happy birthday, this late-born Geminis. Yes, I hope everybody's celebrating, and all the fur daddies and granddaddies and stepdaddies, anyone who's having the positive influence on others, happy celebrating this day for you. So let's jump into the readings. We are going to start with our Geminis and move our way around the Zodiac. We'll start with the birthday month, and then we're trying to create a sense everybody gets their turn to be first. Welcome, Mikey, and hi, Stephen and Dan. If you're all in any way, Daddy, happy Daddy's Day for you here. Oh, and I also meant to say, because my brain is so organized lately, I think I haven't looked to see when July 4th is, but the weekend of July 4th, we're going to take that Sunday off. I will record the readings for that week, so we can have a little bit more. I think Teri needs a little downtime, and she's not quite getting enough to let the air out. Small Wildflowers, I hope your son-in-law is doing well and feeling better. Hope your granddaughter's doing well. Well, I think anybody who's a nurturing energy should be celebrated. So whether you are official daddy to a human or not, you could be the daddy to a goldfish. I don't care. All right, let's go into our readings, again, starting with our Geminis. Let's see what your tarot card is this week. All right, Gemini. This is the Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands is a card of protection. You're protecting something. You've been wounded in some way, and now there's a sense of being on high alert. Now, Mercury rules Gemini. Mercury is currently, in those last degrees of Gemini or in Gemini energy, and it's going to move into Cancer in no short order. This idea that Mercury is making aspects to Mercury this week is in some ways tasking us with being discerning about the information that's coming through. And I don't think it's about being outraged if the information feels incongruent to what you're used to, or necessarily going overboard to support it. But again, sort of a discernment. And that discernment is, am I in a habit of protecting things? When we look at the wands, we're looking at the fire signs. So there's protecting of my creativity, protecting of my heart, protecting of my sense of self, protecting of my beliefs. And I just ran through Sagittarius, Leo, and Aries in that description. So let's see what the angels have to say, because I want to offer, as we move forward, throughout the rest of this year, and then ultimately head into Pluto, moving back into Aquarius, we are going to be much more aware of our thoughts being things, and our focused thought drawing in people and experiences and dynamics to us. And I really resonated with the video that Julia Balaz did with Pam Gregory. The idea that this is a universe of attraction, that things are coming towards us versus an energy of assertion. So as we are aware of our focused thoughts, as we're aware, and rather than trying to push them into an area that feels uncomfortable, we surrender a little bit. Like, I'm a human and I'm going through a process, and that process is giving me stronger and stronger foundations as I'm gentle with myself going through the process. All right. I love growing things. I've killed my celery plant, but it's been so gloomy here that I haven't been engaged in the gardening thing. All right, Gemini, let's see where we're what we're talking about here. Our first angel is Bethany, the angel of self-care. The second is Akasha, the teacher. The third is Serena, the angel of abundance. And final is Archangel Uriel. Bethany is being joined by the High Priestess. Akasha is being joined by the Fear card. Serena is being joined by the Joy card. And Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Horse. So when I see this, this energy of I've been wounded and I need to be on guard, I need to be aware, I need to keep my eye out for danger. This to me is really much more about, again, trusting my intuition, going into a place of asking myself, am I safe right now? It feels like we're in such an inflamed energy of vulnerability that every direction we look, there is something that we need to be cautious of. There's something that we need to mask for, or we need to protect ourselves for. And I feel as if the real quote unquote protection comes from that inner knowing that we are eternal beings. And this gives me permission to do what I need to do to take care of myself in the way that I'm moving forward, because Akasha is the spiritual teacher, and the Fear card is really, I think this is teaching you that whatever you have been protecting yourself from, whatever story you've been repeating that's been going on, I need to make sure that I have enough money. I need to make sure my home is protected. I need to make sure my children are protected. I need to make sure my job is protected. All of that is an underbelly of fear that is actually counterintuitive to the safety that you want to feel, because Spirit is encouraging you, Gemini, to step into a joy energy, and in that joy energy to feel a sense of serenity, and that all the resources that you need will be provided for you as you sort of, you can remove the bandage and allow the oxygen and the sunshine to continue the healing process or the balancing process. Because if you felt frustration, if you felt unforgiveness or any sort of anger, I think this is about allowing yourself to sort of reconcile in your mind if indeed that you're, I'm an Aries rising, and for a long time, while I could be right about a situation, me being upset about it didn't serve me moving forward. It didn't serve me stepping into a new vibration. So I think this is really for you, that if indeed you've experienced frustrations, it may have reached a crescendo that you can do, that you no longer have any power over it. If you think about this guarding yourself, this feels old to me. It feels like he's used to guarding himself, not he needs to guard himself. There's no threat here. So this might be the energy that you get to just kind of move away from, or start to realize that was then and this is now. That's the way I'm kind of putting it. I think we're being, honestly, the stars themselves have been making us feel a sense of vulnerability. Pluto moving back and forth, blowing up structures that we're used to, that we feel comfortable with, even if they are out of balance. And we may inadvertently, feel a sense of physical vulnerability just walking around outside. Last night, it must have been like 1:00 in the morning, and they were drag racing down the coast highway. And it feels to me as if there's no protection. We never see any police presence. We used to have checkpoints, on the weekends, because for people who were drinking and driving. And now it feels like the new regime just throws their hands up in the air and says we can't do anything about it. And it's, so there's a weird sense of vulnerability going on. And I think for my Geminis, it's on a time to sort of allow yourself to really assess whether or not whatever you're discussing, whatever you're continuing to protect yourself over, is it current, or is it something I'm worried about in the future? Because I think when you start to think in more abundance, everything will be provided for me, Oh, I'm sorry. I literally took my phone off. My phone is on Wi-Fi. It's off Bluetooth. It's on Do Not Disturb, and it still comes through. I can't figure it out. I'm so sorry, small wildflowers. I don't know what to do. I cannot get away from my phone. All right, let's go on to our Leos. I'm sorry, Cancer. My Cancers, this is the Page of Pentacles. And here what we're start to see is yeah, Dan, there's so many weird things going on right now and people actually doing weird stuff like random, who would have thought of that? But anyway, the Page of Pentacles, for some reason, to me, feels as if something is coming into the Cancer energy. Not only is the sun about to go into Cancer and mark the summer solstice this week, but it feels as if something that you want is coming into the material world, but it's relatively young, new, not completely solid. And yet, if you look at the way this page is holding that pentacle, there's a light touch to it, almost as if that coin has been tossed to him in some way, and he's still receiving it. He's still in the midst of catching it. So, and here, let me show you what I see here. Look at his hands. They're just on the tip of that coin. So something feels like it's coming into the material. Let's look and see what that might be. Well, I really think that we're going through a period of time, Sunshine Anya, that is where many of us are going to fall prey to the fear diet we've been on for a while. And then some of us are going to turn around and go, wait a minute, I'm not sure I want to, go down this road anymore. And we're going to start to step up, and we're going to see sort of what I think is a real polarizing experience where some people will thrive, and not because they are of privilege, not because they are predisposed from the outside world to thrive, but they've stepped up into their vibration, which is going to bring things into the material world through avenues you cannot imagine right now. That's the other thing, is not to micromanage spirit and how they might bring something across your path. All right. Oops. Okay. All right. Our first angel for my Cancer risings is Layla. The second is Seraphina. The third is Athena. And the final is Crystal. All right. Layla is being joined by the cat. Seraphina is being joined by the novice. Athena is being joined by the hawk. And Crystal's being joined by the perception card. I for my Cancers, I've been feeling kind of, having Pluto opposing your sign for such a long time. And those of you that are late-born Cancers could really be feeling kind of like back and forth. I know that Pluto's, about to square my Mars again, and my ascendant, it's already, having that conversation again. And I truly, in my awareness and having lived through this a few times, I feel a sense of comfort about it. I'm not on high alert. I've become accustomed to Pluto asking me to dig deeper and deeper into my motivations, and if I'm basing things on fear or if I'm basing them on faith. And when I look at Layla, which talks about having a conversation with my team, with those that watch over me, and we all have a team that watches over us, I think that this cat is indicating a new life, that there are 9 lives, and that, the Cancer energy, being one of an intuitive nature, sensitive, ruled by the moon, and we just had a new moon yesterday, I feel like this is about trusting your lunar energies. Seraphina talks about a happy change to the family, and then the novice talks about having skills, but they're new skills. This is skill without practice. Something new is coming down the pike. And I feel like that's the Page of Pentacles, where something is coming into your material world, but it's just the beginning of the process. It's just, hold on a second. It's just starting to show viability in the 3D world, because Athena is telling you to continue to asserting yourself, to looking for the signs and the omens that what you want is on its way. And I want to offer it this way because it feels like it's coming incrementally, almost as if the Cancer energy, let's say that you were on Survivor, okay? And, Jeff Probst has told you you're going to Sanctuary and you're going to get a great meal. And you sit down and the first thing they give you is your appetizer. And you're starving. You're like, I want a buffet. No, you get your appetizer first. Then you get your napkin cleaned. Then you get a little something to clear your palate. I feel like things are coming to Cancer in a little bit of a, it's being doled out. So your willingness to see that it's being doled out, it feels as if it is an awareness that brings a sense of security. That's the way I want to put it. So here, Crystal's saying, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can't see. And then there's the perception card. And I feel like that is you in your conversation with God and your angels and all those that watch over you, feeling a sense of new life, feeling a sense of things coming into the material that you want, that you need. And much of it could have to do with, bringing new sense of ease within your family. And if you're a Cancer of either, you're at that chapter of life where you want to start a family, remember that you're doing this in concert with the soul that will be your children. And if indeed your child doesn't want to have Pluto in Capricorn, it may be a little bit before you actually conceive. So don't put too much emphasis on what you have experienced, but keep your hands light and your willingness to catch what the universe is throwing your way that you're going to start to grow on. Okay, now on to our Leos. You're welcome, Anya. I do think that there, I don't know if you're talking about a literal circus, but I do believe that there is a bit of a sort of a clowning energy right now. And we could go two ways. We could either get very serious and discouraged, or we could start to laugh a little bit about the absurdity of some things and start to create something different. Okay. So Leo rising. We have Venus and Mars in the house right now. Did you notice my elbow? I've got a salve on my elbow because I had a little incident a few weeks ago and I didn't know I even heard it until I kept banging the bone on my elbow. So, anyway, all right. Okay, got distracted. All right, Leo, the Lover's card. Now, Mars and Venus are in your house right now. They're not in a close conjunction, and I think the closest they're going to get is about 4 degrees within each other as Mars continues to move forward. Venus is pulling up the ranks, and the Lover's card here is really a card of choice and the vulnerability of choice. And this is a very Geminian energy because it represents sort of two things, the twins, and we have Archangel Gabriel holding space over this couple and the choices. And the reason I refer to it as choice is because when we choose a partner and we choose to marry that partner, we choose a trajectory of our life. So if you choose to marry a highly religious person, you will be at church every Sunday. And if you choose to marry an alcoholic, you'll be at the bar every Saturday night. And so that's why there's choice involved here and a vulnerability to choice. Now, Venus is going to be in your sign for the next 3.5, 4 months until about October. And Venus, while she rules partnership, she also rules art and beauty and, in many ways, the creation of art and luxury. And I'm thinking here that maybe for my Leos, this is an opportunity to start to really think and work in cooperation with your creativity, with your sense of self-expression. And I don't think creativity is limited to artists. I think people who work with numbers and money and science are very creative in their own way. So let's see where we're going with this, Leo. Our first angel is Ray. The second is Azure. The third is Opal. And the final is Caressa. Ray is being joined by the Fear card. Azure's being joined by the Earth Fairy. Opal's being joined by the High Priestess. And Caressa's being joined by the Focus card. As I look at this, it's interesting to me because I start to feel like Leo is in their head a little bit. I'm going back to the idea that when I look at this, I'm coming up to this idea of the Gemini energy, the choices, being vulnerable to my choices. I see Archangel Gabriel's eyes are closed. There's a serenity about it. And here with Ray, there's the connection to her team. And it looks like potentially there are fears involved. Now let's look at Venus and Mars being in Leo. Venus could rule your self-worth, and Mars is action. And there's the potential that you are in the midst of a choice if I should take action. Is it time for me to start to birth, start to go to the next level, start to put in the 3D world the things that I want to express that are authentic to me? Because the Earth Fairy is going to represent the 3D world, and Azure is talking about your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. Now, if indeed part of that wanting is a relationship, or wanting your relationship to be more settled, more in flow, more ease, then I think part of it is also a willingness to look at what you're afraid of, or what you're the Fear card is interesting to me because a lot of the things that make us feel achievement, that make us feel enthusiastic, that make us feel triumphant are born with fear attached to them. And here, Opal and the High Priestess here is telling me that Leo knows something on an intuitive level that may affect their physical world. And if indeed one of the choices is that in order for you to feel viable in one direction, you have to disappoint somebody else, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a partner. If you're a Leo that wants to be, let's say, a stand-up comic, you can't be standing at the restaurant serving people as a waiter and sure making them laugh, but chasing your dream is going to be standing in the club. So there may be something where you're making a choice of where to put your focus, and you're having a little bit of trepidation as to, will that actually materialize? Will I actually be able to sustain myself? And this is where I really believe that as energetic beings inhabiting a human experience, Pluto's entry back into Capricorn is breaking up those last bits of fear that hold us back, that paralyze us. Because I believe that the Aquarian age is not about an era in time, but rather a way of thinking that's more Uranian. It's more thinking outside the box, liberating us from small thoughts that keep us tethered to a part of ourselves that only feels frustrating. Because this Caressa saying you're at the end of a life cycle, Leo, that new happiness awaits you, and there's the Focus card. And I think that's where you're starting to recognize that your connection to spirit gives purpose to fear. And as you embrace the fear, or you embrace if I want to be an actor, or I want to be an artist, or I want to be a comedian, or I want to have a child, I got to get skin in the game. And if I get skin in the game, I could skin my knees, I could hurt myself, but it's worth the energy of exploration. because this focus is a 33 that tells me I'm going to learn something about how I create my own happiness. And that happiness may not be the outcome, but the journey, the bravery of making the choice, the bravery of following something that maybe doesn't seem to make sense in the 3D world, but it certainly makes sense in the energetic world. Again, I can't help but go back to the idea that when I saw Julia Blaz talking about the Shapley cluster that is full of points of attraction, that played to the laws of the universe for me. And that when I play to those, those dynamics, I focus on what feels good versus what feels like an uphill battle, I start to see the universe bring in those components. And now I just get to be brave enough to continue to make those choices so the momentum becomes more effortless. All right, Leo. And that's how you stand as the leader of the Zodiac. Dan, thank you so much. I appreciate you. It makes me feel so loved. So I really want to say that. Thank you so much. All right, let's go on to our Virgos. I not only do I think major choices are being played out, I also think that choices we've made in the past that we didn't realize were major are coming to the forefront. And I think this is, again, a polarizing experience because some of us may have made choices without realizing it at a very high frequency that is paving a way for a future of more ease. And others will be aware of that choice and they'll sort of have this moment of wanting to catch up with us. Absolutely, 145 Club. Anytime we endeavor something, especially if it has a passion in our heart, it creates anxiety, but it's that anxiety that is so exhilarating. It's that moment when we walk through that, I didn't know if I could, but I tried and I won. And more of us will be winning than losing. That's what I think. And that's what's going to seem so miraculous. But the more often we step through that fear and we're willing to be vulnerable to it, we will be triumphant over it. Virgo. And speaking of triumph, there's the sun. And speaking, this is Virgo now, but this is a Leo energy. We see that sun shining bright. We see this child, naked and no reins, no means of holding on to the horse, but trusting the horse. And the horse isn't even a horse, it's a pony. So it could make erratic decisions. We also see this wonderful and very, what looks like sturdy red flag, the fabric here. I feel like this makes me feel as if there's something feeling triumphant over my base chakra. I'm starting to trust my flow. All right, let's look and see where our Virgos are going. I agree 100% 145 Club. I think we are absolutely cleaning up the loose ends, mastering our skills of trusting ourselves, mastering our ear of discernment, and starting to really incorporate an understanding of the ebb and the flow of dark and light. You cannot be a hero without a villain. And while nobody really likes the villain, if you talk to somebody who is an actor, they enjoy playing the villain because they get to play a dimension of themselves that they wouldn't really, do in their real world. So if we think of it in these moments as where we perceive villains in our lives, how do they stand in and hold space for us to be heroes? Now, you don't have to love the villain, but in the recognition of your hero, you can move a different direction. All right, let's see where triumph comes for our Virgos. Where is the sun coming out and making everything grow? And the thing I love about this card as well is that, the sunflowers truly indicate that there has been some sort of triumph over something, because the wall could be at least 6 feet high. We see the wall, the sunflowers are growing up and above behind the wall. So something is birthed out of what was a block. All right, Virgo. Desiree is our first angel. The second is Archangel Raphael. The third is Archangel Uriel. And the final is Mystique. So you have, depending on your Virgo house and how many planets are there, you've got Saturn and Neptune both stationed in opposition to you. Neptune at 27 degrees of Pisces and Saturn at 7 degrees of Pisces, just retrograding yesterday. Now, I want to offer this because I think the opposition is hard. But again, when we experience a retrograde, if it's conjunct, we experience this back and forth energy. But when we experience it in opposition, initially creates a tension that I believe offers us sort of an experience of warrior's pose from yoga. So the more we push out on the extremities, the more balance we get. And then I believe this starts to help us have the wherewithal and the dexterity to build a bridge. All right, Desiree is being joined by the eagle. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the wrist card. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the queen, and Mystique is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. All right, my Virgos, the sun ruling Leo rules pleasure and entertainment and fun and frivolity and romance and laughter and silly time, And so I think what's going on here potentially is that Virgo has been engaged in conditions that were not favorable up until now. Maybe there's a bunch of nonsense going on. And when I look at the eagle represents the connection to the angelic realm, but it is also a totem for Scorpio. We don't talk about it often. We think of it just the scorpion. But here, I think the eagle is really calling forth a transformation for my Virgos. And that transformation might be being more vulnerable to the fun in your life, or be more willing to look where you have chores to do, work to do, dependability to do, practicality, analysis, process, wherever you feel enslaved, and now turn around and make it fun. And I want to offer this too because Virgo rules our health, and stress really affects our health, and playtime is the body's way of balancing that adulting. Because here Archangel Raphael is the healer, and the wrist card feels like it's an epiphany where you're like, what will happen if I go have fun for a minute? Maybe everything will work out better than I think it will. Because somewhere Archangel Uriel's frustration, Desiree saying conditions aren't favorable. If Virgo has been feeling that opposition, especially from Saturn, asking me to be more and more responsible and more dutiful and less emotional about my own needs, I think this is an opportunity to turn it around. I think this is an opportunity for Pluto's re-entry into Capricorn for Virgo to look at it and say, are these structures that have been thrust upon me? And because of my natural Virgo nature, I have just been doing what has been expected of me, what my employers expect of me, what, I've been trained to be of service to others. And the way that the human defines that and even infers that is that it is to your own detriment. You must give up something for someone else to be happy. And I think that's the biggest thing we're transforming right now. So for my Virgos, I want to say, maybe having fun and being vulnerable to that idea. And you could have fun sitting on your tushy, playing the crossword puzzle with headphones on, that are making the rest of the world quiet for you. It doesn't really matter what that fun is because, pardon me, Mystique is saying to keep charging ahead, to expect miraculous solutions. And then there is the Lady of the Lake. And this is kind of like a fight between my head, my emotions, and my truth is somewhere in the middle. And this is where I'm going with this. Virgo enjoys process and analysis and having a certain rhythm with their work life. They're not Leo. They don't want to play all day long. That makes them feel uncomfortable, but work-life balance, I think, is what's going on here. Get replenishing yourself. I feel like the Queen is really about, in order for you not to feel frustrated, it's taking a risk of refueling yourself. Well, I think this Queen is really, look at, she's relaxed. The guy over here is bringing her beverage. This woman is playing her a good song, a nice, tune. And I think this is super important to keep people healthy. Really, it is. It's about the ebb and the flow between the output and the input. And this Desiree may be that you're not flying up and seeing your own psychological imprint. That's why I brought this up as Scorpio. And let me bring this up. These right now, the South Node is at 2 degrees of Scorpio, which is at the Shapley attractor. It's the largest point within the cluster. So as you're aware that, as above, so below, what I put out into the universe comes to me, that's part of the attractor, then you can realign yourself into something that's more authentic and then use that Virgonian process and analysis to bring and birth it into the 3D world. Have some fun, take a nap, have an ice cream cone, be a child, laugh. Okay. On to our Libras. A Lincoln Log Fort. That sounds like so much fun. 145 Club, when I think of being an adult, all I ever think of is paying my bills. All I ever think of is having to take care of myself, and what an arduous job that can be some days. And then other days, it's much easier, and I'm happy. I agree. Set the inner child free. One of the things that I miss about being a kid, now I had a kind of a weird childhood because some of it is I have some very warm, fuzzy memories and a lot of very, very not fuzzy memories. But there is one I used to try all the time. Mary Poppins came out when I was a little girl, and the scene when they go to Uncle Arthur's and they sing "I Love to Laugh" and they rise to the ceiling. I don't know if you guys remember that scene from Mary Poppins. I used to try to do that all the time. When I was a kid, I absolutely believed that magic was true. I believed I Dream a Genie. I believed that Bewitched was true. I just always believed in magic, anything to do with magic. And, looking at my chart, I understand why now. And I always would try to get my sister and I to laugh to the point where we would rise to the ceiling. We would just be running for the bathroom, but it was fun and it was a good memory. So yeah, let your inner child out and laugh. All right, my Libras, here is our 7 of Swords. The 7 of Swords is a card where this character has chosen to take what he can and leave a situation. And while he'd probably want to bring everything with him, including the 2 swords behind him, he feels a sense of satisfaction with what he's got. He's got a little bit of a smirk on his face. So let's see, Libra, because the first thing I thought to myself is that as a Libra rising, Aries is your 7th house, and Chiron is making aspects to Mars, and you could have a sense of a reawakening of a wound of individuality within your partnerships. And let's see, we have opportunity for transformation. Patience is our first angel. The second is Bridget. The third is Archangel Michael. And the final is Mystique. Patience is being joined by the Truth card. Bridget's being joined by the Water Fairy. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Birth and Rebirth card. And Mystique is being joined by the Partnership card. So for my Libra rising, I really want to offer this because um, Aries being your seventh house is not about being a fighter, a warrior in relationships. It's about having a healthy sense of self that contributes to the relationship. And when I see that Seven of Swords, the first thing I thought of was your own thoughts, your own way of observing a situation, your own way of processing a situation. And not everybody has to agree with you, okay? And so here, when I look at the Patience card, this is a card of observation of my own behavior. And there's the Truth card. And when I see that together, I can't help but thinking of like when there are witnesses to a car accident, how everybody has a different seat to the witnessing of the accident, and everybody sees it from a different point of view, but it's all the truth. Because I think that this is about Libra giving life to their truth and not looking for agreement from somebody else, and not negating it if they don't agree with you, but allowing that sense of a me within a we. Because Bridget is asking you to look deeper into your feelings. And are your feelings only valid if somebody agrees with you? Because they are valuable, they are valuable, they are valid, they are yours. And I think that sometimes Libra will suck up their feelings just to avoid an argument with somebody else. And here, Archangel Michael is asking you to have courage as Pluto rebirths you within your relationships. Now, we talk about the seventh house often, as the house of marriage, but it's the house of diplomacy. It's the house of harmony. It's the house of cooperation. And for Libra, it is the house of individuality. So I kind of think that there is this push pull between do I have to just give into the relationships in my life, the professional relationships? Am I always the one who harbors and fosters peace? And then this sense of wanting to be an individual, because here is Mystique saying to keep charging ahead, to expect miraculous solutions. And there's the partnership card. So I feel as if when I look at this, that Libra has a certain thought process. This is also a 7. Libra rules the 7th house by nature. The truth here is, as you observe your own behavior, are you being and fostering diplomacy and individuality and pioneering spirit and being brave as you express the emotions that you may feel are distasteful to others? And yet, as you have courage, you offer yourself a rebirth. You offer yourself an opportunity to actually experience cooperation, even if people don't agree with you. And that might be what the miracle is. So let me just give you a mundane example. Let's say that you are a single Libra and you've been dating somebody who's perfectly nice, but they're just not making it. They're just not working for you. You're just not getting those butterflies in your belly. And you feel like you don't want to hurt their feelings or let them down. But if you continue forward, you're not going to show up as well, because you'll do something passive aggressive to rectify the situation. So instead, you decide to just tell them your truth. And unbeknownst to you, you have a really great reaction. The honoring of your truth sets you free. So I think it's more about how you go about it versus what you're actually saying. And I feel as if Libra has an opportunity to experience something that they didn't think they could experience, that they may have been so quote unquote cooperative so long that they think if they're not doing what the other person wants, they're going to get a problem. And it may be just the opposite. Okay, here we go. On to our Scorpios. All right. We have the 8 of Swords right after the 7 of Swords. Now, this is an interesting energy, because when we look closely at this character, not only is she standing in a bit of a precarious situation, partially in water, partially on land. For all we know, that's not really water, it's mud because it's shallow. She's standing within a wall of swords. The swords represent my thoughts, My thoughts bring strife and struggle. And yet when you look at her, she could wiggle out of whatever is binding her. In fact, if we look at her blindfold, it looks as if she can see right beneath her nose down, if she wanted to, and yet she stays stuck. So, and so many things come into my mind at once. Scorpio right now with that south node at that second degree, which is also the Taurian degree, there could be this sense of you that is inadvertently attaching your self-worth to another human, to another experience, or to the journey of the other. When we think about the Scorpio energy, it rules other people's money. It rules inheritances, which involves other people. It rules taxes, which involves government, power, control, authority. It rules sex, which most people engage in with another person. It rules the occult, which is that which cannot be seen. The ruler of Scorpio is Pluto, going back into a sign that is restructuring the human experience, that we're restructuring history. We're learning from our own personal history and then renovating that. So I think this is a willingness for Scorpio to see where your thought process might be getting a little bit dark, where you might be feeling a little bit as if things feel erosive. South Node, that's an erosive energy, feels like a loss, and yet at the same time, it doesn't have to be a loss. It's usually the restructuring of a human dynamic that wasn't really serving me, but it was something I could count on. So let's see, Scorpio. Our first angel is Bridget, looking deeper into a situation. Caresa's offering a new chapter. Sonia is your team of loved ones. And Estera is saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. I keep bringing up this attractor energy because I feel as if when we have an awareness of that, rather than looking at how we have to effort out to make something happen, we can start to imagine that the components come into our experience and then line up in a way that almost feels like stepping stones to the next experience. And my awareness brings me into a sense of comfort and security. So Bridget's being joined by the mystery card. Caresa's being joined by the partnership card. Sonia's being joined by the wealth card. And Estera's being joined by the death card. I want to offer for my Scorpios this way, because this awareness of your thought process of this is not about judgment, criticism, shame, guilt, or anything like that. It's simply a piece of information. And I think what you may end up finding is that a lot of the choices you've made have not been conscious choices, or potentially the choices have been making have been based on a history of believability. What you were trained to think, and now you're starting to dig deeper into having the choice of believability. Being aware of the wall of the imprint is not something that you need to feel challenged by. It's almost just a piece of information, and the more you allow it to be a piece of information versus a judgment, the more you can get into a relationship with others that feels more authentic. Yes, of course, Scorpio rules anything that is murky, kind of dirty, a little toxic. It rules the anus. It rules everything that comes out of the anus, but that all can transform into the nutrients that make our garden grow. So this is where your team of guides and loved ones is saying there's a wealth of information that you're garnishing that will allow you to be more in alignment, not only with your own wants and desires, but with the triad that is being offered to you, your interactions with other humans, as well as your interactions with your heavenly team, which then will bring you more a sense of power and control over your own destiny. Because I think that this death card is really Pluto calling forth an elevated experience to your dreams and desires. Scorpio is one of my favorite signs. Maybe I'm just predisposed to enjoy the intensity of and the richness and the authenticity of what's considered some of the more challenging signs. And Pluto for such a little planet, packs a big punch. But I think it feels like a punch because this is the places in our own psyche that we don't look into, the places that have been inadvertently hidden in the swamp. And being in the swamp, there's a sense of vulnerability because we can't see where the danger is coming from. So it requires us to be more intuitive. So this Eight of Swords feels very transformational because as I'm aware of the imprint, the training, it's not, I don't want to villainize any humans. They do their best, but we definitely we bring forth that which came before us, whether we agree with it or not. We may bring it in opposition or in alignment, but we bring it forth. So this allows me to close my eyes from my thoughts and start to feel a little bit deeper with my heart. And that could birth something beautiful out of the swamp. Okay. That just made me think that Yoda lifted a full-blown aircraft out of a swamp in Star Wars. And Yoda did that to allow Luke Skywalker an observation of what a little creature could do in the way of having big power. So I really think that that's part of what we're going through, is that we've felt so small. We've been trained to feel small unless we're serving other people. And even within that, we're required to be humble. And now I think we're going to go through a transformation where the co-creator becomes a celebrated energy that is not boastful, but rather more that of the hero. And that's why Mars co-rules Scorpio. Agreed, 145 Club. She is reaching out into our consciousness, into the Akashic records, into our soul's imprint. And we're all ready for those ventures, those adventures in varying times within our human experience. So that's why I'm doing my best to allow myself not to be irritated with people who judge me based on their chapter in the journey. I get a lot of religious people who give me some grief, like they love me and they hate me at the same time. Okay, on to our Sagittariuses. We have the King of Swords. When I see this guy, I can't help but notice that butterfly flanked by this crescent moons on his throne. Because here I feel like this could very much well, Sagittarius is a fire sign. Sagittarius rules expanded thought, philosophies, ideologies, big concepts. It rules master's degrees and PhDs and levels of education that are not required of us, but are inspired by our own wanting to adventure. So here there is something about mastering the mind and potentially giving life to the emotional body as well. Oftentimes in the human experience, we find them polarized. Someone's highly cerebral, they're considered less emotional. People that are very emotional are considered not so cerebral. And here we're going to start to see a bigger balancing act of that and a certain amount of ease and prowess with it. I can't help but notice his knees while he's sitting holding that sword very strongly, or very careful. I want to say careful because he doesn't look like he's trying that hard. He looks like he's doing it without effort. And then we notice that his knees are sort of relaxed on his throne. So there's something about learning to trust and then coming into balance with my emotional body. All right, here we go, Sagittarius. Our first angel is Archangel Daniel. I'm sorry, Archangel Daniel. I just gave him an upgrade. The angel Daniel. Next, we have Sonia. Next, we have Aurora. And then we have Azure. Daniel is being joined by the dragon. Sonia is being joined by Merlin. Aurora's being joined by the Joy card, and Azure's being joined by the Eagle. This is very, very interesting to me for my Sagittarius, is because, you know, as I discover more and more layers out there in the universe, and my excitement for this Shapley cluster is not lost on y'all as I keep talking about it, but I can't help but think that King of Swords looks like very Libra to me. I know we're on Sagittarius, but there's something about coming into an alignment and a balance and a blossoming. You know, the butterfly goes through a tremendous transformation to become the floating winged creature. Now I look at Daniel and I see history, and I see sort of this calming, reconciling energy of history. And then I think about the idea that there are 2 points within this cluster of four elements, and first is that galactic center at 27 degrees Sagittarius, and then we have the great attractor at 14 degrees Sagittarius. That's my memory. I'm pretty sure I'm right. This feels as if there's some sort of justice and power and prowess coming in, as there's this awareness that my emotional body is what determines my attraction, my point of attraction. It's not necessarily my thoughts, and my history will often trigger an emotional response. And now Sagittarius feels as if they've sort of come to some sort of conclusion, some sort of reconciliation, some sort of understanding, because here's Merlin offering balance, alchemy, and justice, and here's Sonia, our team of heavenly hosts that are guiding us. And I want to offer it this way, because they're never telling us what to do. What I believe they do often is sort of act like that lighthouse. They shine a light, and it's sort of offering us, come this way, come this way. And as we come in the direction of the light, we see the wisdom of whatever has walked before us, whatever we've walked through before us. Because Aurora says you're flying high right now. Don't descend back into that human structure. Continue to feel the joy of your own reconciliation of wherever you've come from. And then we have Azure saying your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And here's the eagle again. Now, for some reason, the eagle is hitting me as very Scorpion today. So somewhere Sagittarius is coming into an energy that is starting to divine a greater wisdom from their journey. And even if that journey has been one where they've observed people that they love walking through certain situations and they have not personally walked through them, they're able to decipher information that makes them feel a little bit more influential, in control, understanding, and then expanding through it. Your ruling planet Jupiter is going through Taurus right now. And Taurus, while it rules, you know, it's an earth sign and it rules our family history, I really feel as if your ruling planet is expanding this opportunity for you to, I almost feel like Uranus, the double whammy. I know that Taurus, it's really not a conversation between the two signs right now, as much as I feel like your ruling planet is having influence over wherever Taurus is in your chart, and that is expanding something that's letting you reconcile where you've been, how it served you, and even if it was challenging, it is the challenge that you're able to decipher in a fair way that then brings you into an energy of feeling more empowered and more influential over your life. That's the way I want to put it. Power and influence over your life. And this desire is coming, because I want to offer this too. I don't think that turning towards somebody who is in need and saying, let me help you in your need, is as powerful as the potential of inspiring them to their greatness. That's the way I want to say it. Welcome, Flamingo. It's good to see you in the room. We needed some pink. All right, on to our Capricorns, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Victory. This is a card where this gentleman has been to battle, and he comes back and oh, oh my God, I'm so jealous, Flamingo. Where are you in the world? You got to see Esther? How is she doing? I love it. All right, Pluto's in the house, Capricorn. And I believe what this card represents is victory as you have integrated Pluto's energy and you are triumphant through the transformation. I love my goats. I always have. I have no, I can only attribute it to my 10-degree Virgonian Venus. She is in trine to the house of Capricorn. And while I have had many a Capricorn drive me absolutely bad, crazy, I've also loved them so much. I love the leadership. I love the tenacity. I love the endurance. I love the stability in some ways. And my moon is in Taurus, so there's probably that too. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. I'm sure she was amazing. I can only imagine being in that room full of that energy. Oh, 145 Club. I'm sorry about the passing of your partner. Wow. And your dad died on Father's Day? Wow. That's pretty intense. And happy birthday, Sir Paul McCartney. Glad he's still kicking. All right. Capricorn, yes, the timing is right for you to follow this new venture, this venture of your transformation of what Pluto's showed you. We have Sonia showing up again. We have Vanessa, and then we have Layla. I believe so wholeheartedly that Saturn is in a reward phase. And those that are aware of Saturn's ability to allow us and to foster our growth, our expansion, our material wealth, will start to really benefit from Saturn right now. Here we go. Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right. And then we have the restriction card. And I don't think it's restriction. I think it's Saturn. Okay. We have Sonia and the horse, which is Sagittarian. We have Vanessa and the mystery card. We have Layla and the movement card. I believe for my Capricorns that you are victorious because you're starting to implement and to integrate the duality of Capricorn. Capricorn is the builder, represents material wealth, represents abundance and agriculture, and then it represents the repression and limitation of government. So here, I believe that yes, the timing is right for you to be victorious over the restrictions that have been limiting your life. And if we think about the idea that Saturn basically says, I don't care how you feel about something, you better stick to it. Now, having the wherewithal of Saturn's energy, I'm going to pick something, I'm going to pick a lane to pursue that I do enjoy. So when it gets hard, I remember why I enjoy it. And I continue to use Saturn's energy to be successful, because I believe that your team here, and this horse now is representing a Sagittarian energy, a Jupiterian energy, that as you've connected with your spiritual side, your co-creation, the soul inside of the material or the physical, however you'd like to think of it, you've started to move in new directions that have fostered your victory. And that is because you're choosing faith over fear. And while Capricorn rules fear in many ways, so does Pluto. Pluto rules death. The human can be afraid of death, especially violent death. But here I believe that this is an awareness of the balance of two things, that sometimes fear will precede faith. And now I feel a strong sense of movement towards my goals in a new direction, that I am being supported, just like this gentleman is being supported by the horse through his heart chakra, to feel a sense of flow with spirit. This is the movement card, and the movement card is in coordination with my connection to source energy. So I think that there's something very powerful going on. And when we think about Pluto's going to traverse the 29th, 28th, and 27th degree of Capricorn. 27 is the Gemini degree, a mastering of my everyday mind and activities and the information that's coming to me and how I'm distributing that. The 28th degree, my intuition, my self-nurturing, mastering, building, nurturing structures that are authentic to me. And then finally, the 29th degree, where Pluto is sitting right now, which is mastering the courage of my heart. Because the heart oftentimes is in conflict with the human structure of serving other people. And we want the support of other people, the applause of other people. And sometimes it feels contrary, as if I do what I want, I won't be supported by others, or I won't be held in esteem by others. And I think these are the structures that are truly being renovated now. All right, Aquarius. The Four of Swords is here for you. This Four of Swords is a very interesting energy because to me, it indicates a need of rest. We can clearly see that, but also communing with my higher power. The three swords that are above this gentleman are not a threat to him, but the sword underneath him, which looks as if it's no threat, feels like an underbelly of thought. And until I connect with my more broad Jupiterian energies, I can continue to operate on these unconscious thoughts. These are the thoughts I can see. This is the thought I can't see. And I won't recognize it. I won't be aware of it until I rest. And I rest in a way that connects with spirit. So it's not just a nap. It's an intention to extract wisdom from a divine disruption or a divine imprint. I think I've told you guys this a couple of times. One of my biggest, honestly, fears is that when I get to the other side, both my parents, biological parents, are going to be sitting there going, do you want to thank me now? And I don't want to thank them, for not being loving, for being narcissistic, for, being, my mom was so violent, it wasn't even funny. And my dad was so passive. It was just like, it's such a polarizing experience. So, my fear is I get to the other side and they're like, okay, if we weren't the way we were, then you wouldn't be who you were. And I'm just like, the thought of that just makes me want to puke. So, there's that. And so I think on some level that is a little underbelly for me. But anyway, because that's what I'm trying to say is that this is the imprint that we're not aware of, that sometimes distasteful people gave us. Okay, there's Ray. This is for Aquarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. There's Fiona, there's Vanessa, and then there's Archangel Michael. And, sometimes I think for my Aquariuses, they rule the nervous system. They rule large systems in general, like the World Wide Web. But I've been shown for probably over a year now that when Aquarius starts to feel a sense of anxiety, they kind of get to slow down and really connect with their truth. Because I think that anxiety is taking them into a new territory that may feel as if it initially is going to move them further away from connection, when I think it'll actually be bringing more connection. Okay. Ray is being joined by the Truth card. Fiona is being joined by the Joy card. Vanessa is being joined by the Burden card. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the High Priestess. Well, this just all seems to support what I was saying about connecting with my team so that I can have an awareness of an imprint of thought and therefore have more influence over it in a positive way. Flamingo, I agree that we don't care about things in the same way, but I also believe that we don't completely lose our personality, our edges, our corners. I believe we just have an awareness that it's almost like like an adult watching a child learn how to ride a bike, and while they're on a three-wheeler they feel so comfortable, but we've got to take those training wheels off, and we'll watch them wobble, but we know we need to sort of let them wobble to get their balance. So there's an interesting dynamic here, because Ray is connecting to the other side, connecting to your team. That's where your power is, that's where your heart is, that's where your voice is, and that's where your truth is. And I feel like the truth doesn't have to be something that I feel bad about. It actually can make me feel more powerful. Because if I'm aware of an imprint, I know I've become very aware of imprints that I didn't even know I had over the last year. And Saturn exposed a lot of those imprints for me. And at the same time, I felt like Saturn, well, I felt frustrated as Saturn was exposing to me where my fears were actually putting me in a compromised energy where I was looking to others to fix me or to help me. And I had the power inside of me. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy always had the power inside of her. She just didn't know it. Because Aquarius Fiona is saying, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving and to feel joy. Because the joy will move the story forward, but your burden of faith will sort of slow it down. And I think that burden is the sword here. The part of you that may be feeling a certain amount of anxiety, you don't know where it's coming from or why it's coming from. But if it's coming, then there's somewhere where you're not truly allowing your curiosities, where you are, the truth of who you are, to be birthed, because there's somewhere you could potentially be fearing that if you're your authentic self, you will be alienated. Because Archangel Michael in the final position is asking you to have courage. And this is your intuitive body. This is the viability of your heart. This is the receptive part of you. And I feel like this connection to the other side, a deeper truth and awareness of your imprint, would actually help you feel a stronger sense of faith in your journey and be able to celebrate more joy. The thing that I think Saturn has shown me the most is that Saturn isn't trying to stoke me with fears, but Saturn has absolutely brought up some things that I found very distasteful. But then I also realized, oh, I didn't have faith in myself. I thought I needed something else. I thought I needed to be younger. I thought I needed to, be blah, 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 whatever the story. And really, the truth of the matter is that the imprint was that I was never good enough. And now, as I'm aware of the imprint, I can say, you know what? I am good enough. And I'm smart enough. And I'm pretty enough. And I'm tenacious enough. I'm all these things enough. And it's time for an incorporation. With Pluto about to move into your first house and getting the glimpse of Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius, everybody's, shaking in their boots over Pluto. I think Pluto's a liberator. I think Pluto is bringing up that underbelly, not to throw you under the bus, not to make you more intense or brooding, but rather a piece of information that illuminates a human structure that no longer serves humans' evolution. And as you step into that truth, you step into a greater levels of trust with that which cannot be seen. Okay, on to our Pisces. 145 Club, what was the ouch for? Was it the Saturn thing? Or did I say something that stung? Because God knows I can, even though I try not to. Spock used to have the funniest sarcastic face. He used to, he used it most on Bones, but he'd do it with Jim too. I love that show. All right, here we go. For our Pisces, it's all in the details. For my sweet Pisces, this is a card of money. Okay, it's a card of mastery. This character has already created a certain amount of material wealth, and now he's going back and he's doing the fine details. Now, with Neptune stationing at 27 degrees, Neptune's making some aspects this week to the sun. Neptune's making some aspects, I believe, as well to the sun. and my notes, I turned them over. What I'm trying to say is with Saturn in the early degrees of Pisces and Neptune at the late degrees of Pisces, Saturn stationing at 7 degrees, harmony, diplomacy, cooperation, fairness. 27-degree Neptune is Geminian. How do I think? Am I giving away my power? Am I sucking up the information that's coming at me without a discerning eye? Because I think it's about looking at the details. And I think that this is about paying attention to not the details that you can necessarily see with your eyes, but using Neptune's energy to go into what you feel in your heart. And then also want to offer this, because even though Mercury and Neptune make a square this week, I think this could be a very good week for creativity, as long as I don't get too critical of myself. But let's look and see what's going on here. Because what I think's happening with this Eight of Pentacles is a transformation of something in the material world, but looking at the details of what you're creating, and a deeper level and a deeper willingness not to judge any imprints you find, any ancestral energies that you're operating on, but rather, again, a piece of information that allows for a broader dynamic. Okay. Pisces, our first angel is Azure. Your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. Oceana is here, about trusting your gut. Archangel Gabriel here is about being insecure in your communications, self-talk, and Astera says to reach for the stars. I really agree with 145 Club that Saturn has come into Pisces to anchor in our sense of trusting that intuitive knowing, not just to look at Neptune as murky waters, but rather crystal clear waters that allow us to swim effortlessly through them with a sense of basking in warmth and feeling something solid. So, Azure is being joined by the horse. Oceana is being joined by the cat. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the disruption card, and Astera is being joined by the burden card. Pisces is a mutable sign. Pisces is ruled by the fish. Pisces for me is about balance, because we see the yin and the yang of it. And there's a balance between the human experience and some of the challenges there, and the divine experience that actually, when we are out of body and we are experiencing ourselves in spirit, we really want to come here. We want to go into this dense experience and practice our skills in this veil of unknowing. So here, this is about, again, details. It's a deeper dive into how you're creating a sense of resources, material security. As you're saying, your desired outcome will happen in the near future as you take I believe this is Jupiter, this is Sagittarius, a broader perspective, believing in yourself a little bit more, being willing to take a risk, being willing to say, what if I actually bet on me? Because the cat is a card of independence. It's also a card that offers 9 lives. And here's our emotional body, but not just any emotional body. It's Neptunian, because this character is swimming up through the oceans. There's stars behind in the background, and there's the whale, our soul's destiny. And there is an illumination of the path of ascension through your individuality, through the idea that there are 9 lives. And that as you pay attention to what these 2 significant planets are doing in your first house, there is an opportunity for the waters to become clearer. Saturn can clear the waters. Saturn can put river rocks in the water, so you have something to jump over. Saturn rules stone, because Archangel Gabriel says you have an important life's purpose in communications and arts. There's the divine disruption card. The sign of Pisces is one of the most creative signs in the zodiac. There are many creative signs, but here we're talking about really the kind of creativity that brings a sense of magic into this human experience. It rules fantasy and imagination and fairies and water nymphs and mermaids and all sorts of things like that, because I feel like what's going on here is potentially you individualizing yourself to your soul's calling, even if your mind is telling you that you may need a partner or need something else to support you. And I don't know that you do, because Astera is telling you to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. And the burden card feels like it comes a little bit because there's something within the details that you haven't nailed down, and you might only find that through your intuitive body. When I look at this for my Pisces, the first thing that I feel is that whatever you're working on, whatever you're creating for yourself, there's a sense of individuality here. And if you think about Pisces rules the bedroom, it rules creativity that we do alone. When we're writing, sometimes we write songs with other people, but when we're little kids, we go into our bedroom with our hairbrush and sing in the mirror and pretend we're a rock star. So something here is about allowing yourself to move in a new direction that broadens your thought, takes you into ideas you may not have had before. And they're ideas that come from a deep part of your own individuality. So I want to just kind of round out Pisces like this. If you have been contemplating your future in relation to how other people will respond, will other people like what I'm creating? Will other people support me in that creativity? I feel like there's a little part of you that is actually doing yourself a disservice. Don't worry about what other people think, but rather worry about the audience of one. And if you like it, if you think it's wonderful, if you are proud of it, it will find its own audience. Oh my goodness. So okay. So Neptune's sitting on your natal moon. So this could be very much calling forth for you to trust your emotional body. And I want to offer it this way, because with Saturn on your natal Mercury, maybe part of connecting with your intuitive body is automatic writing and being diligent to continue to meditate with a pencil and a paper next to you, or to allow yourself to take notes on these little hits that you get, so that you can see through Saturn's consistency that your mind is working in cooperation with your intuitiveness. So is it a contradiction, or is it an opening of a space? I think it's the opening of a space. I started off trusting my connection to spirit through automatic writing. I would meditate. My friend and I would sit and meditate, or at least we'd call it meditation. My mind's always kind of noisy. And then I would just take notes, and it was really, really helpful, because when I reread the notes, I'm like, well, this can't be me because I'm too much of a bitch. All right, here we go. Aries, the Hanged Man. I think this is a Neptunian energy. The Hanged Man for me represents this. It's sort of a pause for an illumination. There is a sense of sacrifice with this card. It comes to me that way because in my Greek mythology deck, this character was Prometheus, and Prometheus sacrificed for love. Now, when we look at the Hanged Man here, we don't see him being tethered to this by another energy, but rather him sort of choosing this sort of stance. Things have to go upside down in order for him to have an epiphany. Now, interesting enough, too, we're talking to our Aries friends right now, Aries rising, and the legs are in red tights. And the legs movement, red tights, the base chakra, are the very thing that is tethering that one foot to this tree. And I say tree because it clearly looks like wood, but it is a construct of some kind. And I wonder if for my Aries, right now your ruling planet is in Leo, and you want to move fast. And yet Venus is coming up on you. Mars is making a few challenging dynamics, but it's making a very favorable dynamic to Chiron. And I think that the trine to Chiron could very much bring an epiphany, an awareness where the wound becomes the gift. The wound becomes the inspiration for the next right step. And I say that because of the way that the legs are read. I feel like I'm looking at this for Aries, and while the legs are at the top where our head would normally be, and the head is where the legs would normally be, something turns upside down that allows me to have an epiphany that then moves me into a direction that feels more authentic. All right, Aries, our first angel is Isabella. The second is Daniel. The third is Bridget. And the final is Astera. Um, 145, I agree. You know, when you're in one sign, to me, it's like two energies in one house. One, if it's more than 10 degrees apart, one may be in the kitchen and the other's in the other room, but they can still hear when they yell at each other. Hey, did you turn the water on? So with Neptune and Saturn in the same house stationed, it feels very interesting to me because they're in the opposite ends of the house trying to have a conversation. There's a bridge building here. Okay. Isabella and the Baird Aries are being joined together. Daniel and the Movement card. Bridget and the Eagle. Astera and the Partnership card. You know, as an Aries rising myself, I found Mars hanging out in Gemini for 7 months earlier this year, meaning the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023. It was very eye-opening to me in how that my community interacting with other people, what I learned about myself, how I thought, and how often I go to war in my mind. How often when I have no information, I default to a problem, an argument, an issue of some kind. And I'm used to people thinking I'm hostile or thinking I'm too assertive or thinking I need to keep my mouth shut. Don't speak like that. You know, and I want to say this, if people didn't argue with me so many times within my own family, if I felt a more open landscape, I might not have been so assertive. But I'm not going to blame other people, because I think this hanged man is exactly what I'm going through. A pause that's having me be enlightened by where I have been. Because yes, the timing is right for this new venture to start singing a new song. And the new song is really a movement away from my story and to tether myself from my story. Because you know what? I'm really not hostile. I'm assertive. I'm willing to stand up for myself, but I don't go to arguments. I don't default there. And it's time for me to start to realize that. So let's turn Mars into a hero. Let's turn Mars into the guy running into the building, you know, to save the kitten because he's a fireman. Let's turn Mars into the team player, you know, the inspiring captain on the football team, because something is going on here. And it's time for our Mars ruled people to slow down enough to start to take inventory of what works for you. I'm kind of up to here with everybody. Oh, if Neptune's around, lies and deceit. Oh, if Pluto's around, death and destruction. Oh, if Saturn's around, depression. I mean, these are all human constructs. Everything has its polarizing energies. In fact, Flamingo went to see Esther Hicks yesterday, and oftentimes we'll talk about Esther will say, which end of the stick are you looking at? Because I really believe that what's going on, Aries, is look deeper. Look deeper into your integrity. Look deeper into your spirit of who you are and ask yourself, would you rather be something different than you are? Or would you rather, because I don't want to be more cooperative with humans that make dumb decisions. I want to make my own decisions. And I want to be open-minded enough to allow other people to make decisions, even if I don't agree with them. Because I think that when Astera says to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires, that's where the partnership comes. This is where you become the brave pioneer, that your job in this lifetime is to feel free to discover yourself, because that's why you're an Aries. Aries rising, you're discovering yourself. Aries stelliums, you're really discovering yourself, your movement, your actions, how they affect other people, and how you create on this planet. If you're an Aries moon, that all is more about your body, your emotional body. So I want to offer this. If this particular week you find yourself in a pause, it's offering you an illumination so you could be aware of the story you're telling. And if you're crying about your history, or if you're telling a new story, this bear, he's been through the ringer. He's no young chicken. He's kind of a little bit older, but he's starting to sing a new song. And he's starting to feel it in his heart. And then the authorities, if you look at this card real carefully, you see the king inside the bag. He sort of has put those old authority figures in a place and in a compartment where he's not getting rid of them, but rather starting to use them in a way that he decides. So that's what I think is going on for my Aries. I think Mars in Aries is a very good place for it to be. And that might indicate there was arguments within your home life, or you could have come from a military family. There's so many layers to everything that the more we keep compartmentalizing these things and keep repeating these things over and over again, the more we're doing a disservice to these energies that are trying to support us. And now the evolved version of that Mars in Aries in the 4th house is being brave enough to create your own family the way you want it, with the types of people that you love. We all don't have to agree with each other or love each other. We just all have to get out of each other's way so we can express ourselves authentically. All right. Our final sign for today is our Tauruses. And we have a celebration card here. The 4 of Swords is very much a celebration. It's an acknowledgement. When I look at these characters in here, this was not something that was bestowed upon them. This is something they created. They grew the bounty that hangs above them as this garland that sits above them, and they're very proud of themselves. I think it's wonderful. So let's see where we're going, because for my Tauruses, you've got Jupiter. Okay, now this is what I want to tell you. Jupiter does not promise expansion. Jupiter offers expansion, offers bounty, offers wealth, offers a realignment. Nothing is being bestowed upon you unless you receive it. Because the flip side of Jupiter is entitlement and being a pompous ass and thinking you know everything and not listening to anybody else. Jupiter, the planet, okay, according to Nova, was going through the whatever the belt is. I can't remember. I know if I heard it, but it's going through the, big old Jupiter's traversing this belt. I can't remember the name of the darn belt in the sky. And what did it do? It knocked happy Mars off its cycle, and then Mars started to die. So sometimes I picture Jupiter as this large energy that shoves its hips from right to left, and sometimes inadvertently knocks people off their course. And I say that only because we don't want to just characterize Jupiter good, Pluto bad. Because as Pluto goes in and starts, thank you, Algo Bella, the Cupler belt, thank you. I knew if I saw it, I would remember it. Thank you. I love you people out there. My problem is that it's not that I have ADD, it's that I never sit down and watch TV. I'm always on the move. That's my Mars. So I'm like cleaning the kitchen, or I'm making a juice, and I listen, and then I rewind, and I'm never just sit down and watch TV. If I do, that's such a rare day. So that's why I think my brain is not completely broken. It's just not paying complete attention. All right, where is Taurus going to be celebrating? What you've been building and growing. And as those of you that are getting into those later degrees, we're seeing Uranus coming up for the first time in those later degrees of Taurus, really offering a whole new world, a renovation of your history, a renovation of your self-worth, building something sustainable and expansive, and rewriting your beliefs, and something you can celebrate because of your efforts. Our first angel is Archangel Michael. The second is Yvonne. The third is Archangel Uriel. And the final is Fiona. In this angel deck, Archangel Michael, while he always represents protection of some kind, he represents having a courage to make a change that makes you happy, that makes you feeling that you're on course, on the right path. And that right path comes from your heart. So Archangel Michael is being joined by the Burden card. Yvonne is being joined by the Grail Knight. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Owl. And Fiona is being joined by the Love card. All right. I want to offer this because as an earth sign and as a Taurus, you rule family history, you rule self-worth, you're ruled by Venus, the sign of partnerships. Ooh, fun. When Uranus went over my rising sign, I started working for myself. I was, thank God, at the time not paying that much attention to astrology, but I got pissed off. I had an upset unexpectedly, and I quit my job and I launched off to be Teri. Because for my Tauruses, there is courage required to take this to the next step, to really start to focus in on what is going to make you happy, what you want in the way of your life, because this Burden card is the contemplation of the change, but you're not really contemplating the change in a way of joy. You're contemplating the burden of it. You're contemplating everybody getting mad at you, or what will people think, or because now is a time to be vulnerable to your own dreams and desires. This Grail Knight is Lancelot, and to me, he is seeking the sacred within Excalibur. He's bowing to his truth, and there's a vulnerability here. And in the angel's advice, I think that Taurus may be going back and forth and going, oh no, will people be angry at me? Will I rock the apple cart and knock all the apples on the road in my wanting to be free of whatever the story is that has been assigned to me? Because at the end of the day, Fiona says, now that you ask God and the angels, be open to receiving. And here's the Love card. And I feel like this Love card isn't about intimate love. It's about feeling love, feeling a flow, feeling excited about life, feeling good about where I'm going. And as a Taurus moon, I have identified in myself lately very much where I have these weird bubbles that have come up of I leave my house and I have this strange feeling of vulnerability as people are driving 9,000 miles down the road. I mean, the frustration off the highway is at an all-time high. There is absolutely no consideration for pedestrians anymore. There's no policing the energy. And my point of telling you this is that part of my Taurus moon is finding myself feeling slightly burdened by my own changes that I want to make, my own new ventures that I want to have, because I personally feel vulnerable to the outside world, to weird anger balls running around. But part of this journey is being vulnerable to my own dynamic and trusting that when I pursue me, when I pursue the things that make me want to be proud of myself and what I've grown, what I have created. This is Taurus building something and then celebrating what they have built. Because what I think this Love card is really about you starting to love this journey that Uranus and Jupiter are offering you as your beliefs expand and your experiences change, and the renovation of who and what you are is moving the story forward. You know, when I think of Taurus, sometimes I think, Taurus doesn't really move, but Taurus does move. It just doesn't move quickly. Taurus likes to move methodically. I think of as we're plowing the fields, you don't want to be running around the fields like this. You want to create these nice rows. Pardon me. So when you plant your seeds, the roots have room and air and nutrients to grow. So here, I think that right now, especially for my later born Tauruses, also those of you that have the North Node, um, the North Node is in the early degrees of Taurus. So those early degree Tauruses are feeling this ravenous energy to move the story forward. And we've got that Shapley attractor that is opposing that movement because it's at 2 degrees Scorpio. So I want to offer this because the burden of making the changes is not the action of them. It's the vulnerability of Taurus fleshing out the truth of their dreams. And you may have to go through this a couple times because the first time you do it, it may be, well, this is what I want, but it's in relation to what you think you can create. And then there's going deeper. Well, what if I'm not creating on my own? What if I'm creating with spirit? Well, then what should I do? Don't do anything. Continue to stay in that being energy, because then spirit will inspire you into the next action. I really want to offer that for all my earth signs, but right now with Taurus having such liberating and revolutionary energy in the house, and it's still going to be there for a couple of years. We're not done with this energy of rewriting the landscape of our sustainable structures, our sustainable, I keep seeing, farming. I keep seeing land and food and things of the earth. So I feel like overall, gentility with yourself. Maybe it's even time to take a little bit of inventory of what you have created and up until now and realize that it's a baton pass. I'm inspired, and through my inspiration, I take action, and then I pause and I bask in what I have created as I await the next inspired move towards what I love. All right, that's it. Hey, DJ, welcome. Hi, Under the Moon. All right, everybody, that's it for me for this week. I want to tell y'all I appreciate you and I love y'all. We'll be back next Sunday. And then I think the week after that, I'm going to take off for the 4th of July weekend, because I think I'll do better if I take a few more holidays off, because this little girl is in need of some sort of rest. Yes. All right, everybody. I want to thank you for being here. I love y'all so much. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for hitting the notification bell. Thank you for supporting my channel and being here for me. I feel the love every week. And if you want to get a reading with me, I am available. I've been doing a lot of charts lately, which has been super fun. I'm excited about that. And of course, the angel readings are here as well. So, all right, everybody, sending love to you. I'll see you next week. Peace.